Welcome back to the show, man. How are things? You're talking NBA every single morning these days. Every single morning, it feels like.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. Every morning, yeah. It's been a wild ride to cover the entire league. A lot of fun to do it. You know, you get to kind of dip your toes in every little nook and cranny of the NBA and kind of discover stories. But it's been fun, man. It's been a lot of fun. How you doing, Cole?
All is well, bro. All is well. I mean, it's probably a good year for you to cover every team because the Raptors, there's not much to talk about, even though I'm going to hit you with some Raptors trivia at the end of this. So we will get some Raptors in.
Okay, cool.
Let's start with the Lakers. AD says, I think we need another big. Your thoughts?
I think he's right, to be honest with you. Maybe not the big in the prototypical way, but like everybody is looking for that Aaron Gordon type, especially teams that have that like rim protect, you know what I mean? And it's so hard to find that archetype of player, to be honest with you. It's hard to get a guy like Aaron Gordon who can make plays, who's like a decent enough shooter that can stretch the floor a little bit, can play defense, can play small ball five a little bit. I think they kind of have that mold in Jared Vanderbilt, although Vando can't shoot, you know what I mean? And so that's the big differentiator. They need some floor spacing. That's why you think like, all right, cool. Nikola Vucevic is the guy that they seem to be targeting. There's another guy out there, Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe he works. These are different types of bigs. I think they do need one, though. I will say, I don't know if you agree with this, but like Anthony Davis at his best is at the 5 to me. And so like there's a weird push and pull between he wants a big, but he's probably best as the sole big on the team or on any given lineup. So it's like, well, how do you make him happy and also make your team, you know what I mean? It's a weird thing that you have to figure out.
It's weird, but it's common with hoopers. Like, nobody wants to play the 5, like, growing up.
Fair,
actually, even dissing somebody used to say, you're a center, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. That might, you know what? That is a fair point. I feel like most times, especially even if you're in a run, like nobody wants to do the run, screen, rim run, dive.
And he's actually been doing a great job of that stuff.
He has. Yeah. He's great at it. But that's the thing. Like he's elite at it. Like he's one of the best in the league. Can be a top 5 player on any given night when he dominates. Like he destroyed the Warriors the other night. When he's like that, man, he is one of the best players in the league. And he's doing it as the center for the team. So it's just weird to see him want this and then, you know, really like fit-wise, it makes sense for him to be the sole big on the team. But I agree that like having some sort of backup that they can go to, a guy that they can kind of go double big lineups. You look at like Miami right now with Bam and Khalil Ware, and it's like, wow, he works so well next to Bam because Bam does all the defense, versatility, can switch 1 through 5 type of stuff, but Ware is like weak side rim protection. It's 3-point shooting. It's spacing the floor. It's kind of like rim running off of the corner or whatnot. So like all of that stuff is cool, and I think might work next to AD too if they find the right guy.
Okay, it's cool, but does it make them legit title contenders? And who's that guy that's realistic for this team in a trade scenario?
Yeah, that's tough, man. I don't know if there's anybody out there that really shakes it up. Like can you sell yourself on them going after Levine and Vooch, and what kind of money?
I mean, honestly, I think Levine makes them contenders without Vooch. I think with Vooch, it puts them in that top bubble. Mm-hmm. Just because the league's so wide open at this point, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, like, especially the West, because it's so matchup dependent. Like, you see the Rockets and Grizzlies. Sorry for the little text bubble popping up. But the Rockets and Grizzlies, they kind of battle back and forth, and the Rockets seem to have the Grizzlies outnumbered. You watch those games, it's like, wow, the Rockets really know how to beat the Grizzlies. And then you go and watch, like, the Mavericks, who beat OKC twice this month. You know, it's like, so, like, it's very matchup dependent. And if you're the Lakers and you're looking at some of the rest of the playoff teams, you're like, all right, cool. I like that team in a matchup. I don't like this. I don't want to face the Nuggets. You know, if you're the Lakers, the only team you don't want to face right now is Denver because it just seems like that team has your number. But I think overall, like, you could sell yourself on this team improving at the trade deadline. But do they have what it takes to actually cough up the assets to go get those guys? Both salary-wise, both pick-wise, like all of that stuff is going to be important when it comes to trying to trade for Levine, who makes $44 million, and Vooch, who makes 20, that you got to cobble up $64 million in salary. That's tough, you know?
Yeah. Lakers and Celtics are feeling a little more realistic lately. C's on a little bit of a winning streak. Lakers are healthier than ever before. They're playing better defensively than ever before. You mentioned Vanderbilt. He's actually, like, obviously he changes what they do defensively, but he's making some nice reads. Cleveland struggling. You mentioned OKC's loss to the Mavericks without Luka. Is the Lakers and Celtics more realistic than ever before?
Nah, I can't do it. I can't agree to that. I mean, look, there's crazier things that have happened, man. Crazier things that have happened. But like, if I had to go down a list of teams in the West and where the Lakers fall in that, I think I would probably name like 4 or 5 teams, maybe more.
And what does that list shrink to if they, let's just say, just Levine?
Just Levine? Yeah, they probably end up in the top 4. I could see top 4. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think Levine is like, they're not a good shooting team. They don't take a lot of threes also, and Levine just instantly changes that for them. Secondary scorer next to Braun. The only thing is like defensively, how do you work a backcourt of him and Austin Reeves together? That's the issue that you come across. And then it's like, okay, that's even more pressure on Vanderbilt. That's even more pressure on Rui and, whoever, Max Christie that they've been playing in lineups a lot. Like, yeah, it could work, but there is some defensive issues that could follow. Yeah.
I also Zach LaVine has all the tools to be a good, at least a solid defender. Don't you feel like if they were on their way to maybe winning a title, he could lock in a little bit more than he does with the Bulls?
Yeah, I could see that. That. You know what? It feels like with stars, especially superstar guys, like they could buy in anytime they want to. It's just like it's about being in the right situation. And like, let's be real, Chicago, he doesn't necessarily need to play as much defense because they're an offense first team.
They're just out there. They're just out there hooping. They're actually they're actually tough to beat some nights.
They're fun. They're fun.
Yeah,
they take a shit ton of threes. They take I think they are second or third in 3-point attempts this season. They just let them fly, and so it keeps them in games against pretty much anybody.
So my biggest snub for any of the All-Star starters was Cade Cunningham, by far, in my opinion. But
okay.
But I want to hear your thoughts on the West. They're rolling out with the big three, the vet big three, the superstar big three.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Western Conference NBA All-Star starters, and do you like who they're rolling out with?
I think the one guy who has an argument in the West is Wemby, because he's having like a historic sophomore season. The way that he impacts winning for the Spurs. I mean, their on-off numbers with him on the floor and off the floor is crazy. He's probably on his way to winning Defensive Player of the Year, and you look at his numbers like box score wise, he's doing like 22-11, 4 blocks, leading the league in blocks. You could argue that he's having a better season than LeBron. You could argue he's having a better season than KD, although KD has been hooping. And so I think if I had to pick someone to take out of there, it's probably Bron. But it's crazy to say that because like Bron is LeBron. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to get him coming off the bench? And especially it might be the last season that him, Steph, and KD all start together or even playing together. You know what I mean? So it makes sense for them to go that route. But I probably would have had Wemby in there if we're just working off of merit,
Yeah, the crazy thing about it is there's a chance he doesn't make the All-Star game at all, right?
Yeah, maybe. Although I feel like most coaches probably vote him in. And by the way, Cade will make it too. He gets a lot of love.
Oh, he has to make
coaches.
it. I think coaches will appreciate him. The only concern when it comes to coaches is that they place a lot of stock on winning.
Yeah.
Because they get fired if they don't win, so they're thinking about the wins and the losses. And Cade and Wemby's team aren't at the top of the league, but I feel like they're doing a lot more with less in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. I feel that's why Trey gets hurt a lot when that. Like, I mean, you look back at the last 2 or 3 seasons where Trey hasn't made the All-Star team. Most of the time, it's because the coaches don't vote him that high. Fans vote him high, media votes him high, but the coaches end up kind of discrediting what Trey does, and it is because of the winning. It's the defense. It's all that type of stuff. I think it'll be hard to dispute Wemby getting in there, though. I think he's just too good of a season, too popular of a player. The coaches will, if anything, feel pressured to put him into the All-Star game.
So we're getting the big three, KD, Steph, and LeBron. And what's really interesting about these 3 superstars is when you watch them play, they're still KD, Steph, and LeBron, but it feels like their impact on winning isn't quite the same. Yeah, go ahead.
Man, I think their impact on winning isn't as good, but it's also because their teams aren't as good. I think that they have tons of flaws on all 3 of those teams. Phoenix isn't that good of a defensive team around them. The KD, Book, and Beal trio hasn't really worked together seamlessly. I think Nick Richards has been a good addition to that team just because they've been desperate for some athleticism. And then for the Warriors, man, they don't have anybody outside of Steph that can create. Like, there's just no one else that can create a shot or make anything for themselves. Jonathan Kuminga's been out, so that's really hurting their aspect. And then for the Lakers, they're flawed in different ways. They really struggle defensively. And so it's forcing LeBron, it's forcing AD to kind of pick up the slack on that end. Even though Austin Reeves is having a good season, they still, like, he gets mismatch hunted a ton defensively. And so they have to work through these things. And that's why I think they're having down seasons generally. But yeah, like they're also getting older. It's harder to keep that up consistently, especially when you're their age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it was just a little bit different, I feel like, years ago when it came to superstars. You seen them in that jersey that they really weren't supposed to be in. Like you think about Sonics or Orlando Magic, Patrick Ewing, or Akeem Olajuwon with your team, with the Raptors. These guys are aging more gracefully.
No, you're right. Absolutely. 100%. And you know what? That comes down to like the technology. Dudes taking care of their bodies more often. The amount of investment that they kind of have in, nutrition and everything like that. Like it's just at a different game than it was years ago. I do wonder though if these guys are just rare in the aspect of like how long they're playing, because you see Chris Paul playing till he's 42. James Harden is getting up there in age. Jimmy Butler is like 36, 37, and so this era in general is like really, really a lot of guys are playing late into their careers. It's probably also a money thing. Because, like, they get guaranteed contracts no matter what. Like, Kawhi last year signed, I think, a 4-year deal to extend with the Clippers. And, ultimately, he's not necessarily that max player anymore. He can play up to a max level any given night. But, obviously, the health stuff makes it a little bit of a question. It's a guaranteed bag, though, So, like, why not go ahead and play till I'm 38, 39 and get 4 more years of guaranteed money,
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned Kawhi. The Clippers are 6-1 since Kawhi.
They look good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Kawhi's short stint with this Clippers team?
I mean, it's so like, first of all, I saw a stat where like with Kawhi and James Harden, they have with both those guys on the floor, they have the number 1 offense and number 1 defense. It would rank as number 1 and number 1. So absurd when those two guys are playing. I think like what Norm Powell said earlier in the season about addition by subtraction, where it's like some guys are stepping up offensively. Norm is having a really great season. Defensively, they have guys who lock in like Zubats and Derek Jones Jr. and Nick Batum, guys who can really play on the wings. So the team is really good on the defensive end, and they kind of hang their hat on that. Now you have Harden and Kawhi who can kind of lead them offensively. And I like the system that they have. I think Ty Lue is a really, really great coach. He's awesome in terms of devising up a game plan against teams. So they have that edge too. It's just about health with that team, man. That's all it is. Like, can Harden and Kawhi stay healthy for an entire postseason? And the question in the last 5 seasons to that has been no. Like, they just haven't been able to. So is this the year that they end up staying healthy and make some noise in the West? Maybe. But it's tough to sell yourself on that. Like, I think they look great, but none of this really matters unless they look like this in April and May,
Yeah, what's been interesting to you in terms of Kawhi's play over these 7 games?
So I watch soccer a lot, okay? And in soccer, they have something called a super sub, right? So dude will punch in for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, come in, score a goal, be active, give that energy, whatever. Obviously, Kawhi isn't a sub. He starts. But he only plays like 22, 23 minutes a night so far. And he's just coming in. He's like, I'm going to get 20 points in 20 minutes. I'm going to be plus 20. I'm going to play great defense. And that's going to be me. And I think it's a really cool strategy the Clippers are using to utilize Kawhi, because they have this infrastructure around him that works. They got Norm. They got Harden. Those guys can kind of keep the ship going. But Kawhi comes in and really elevates their ceiling, and he just does it for like 20, 25 minutes a night. So it's been cool to see them deploy that strategy. I wonder how that looks long term, because that's the question I have. Like, are they going to keep going this route, or is he eventually
in the playoffs, if they truly want to do damage in the Western Conference, he has to play more, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What's different about his game since you covered him in Toronto? Like, does it feel like the Kawhi that you watch with Toronto at all, or is it like a totally different player?
It's different in the sense that he's not as mobile as he was in Toronto. Even in Toronto, though, like you could tell there were moments, especially towards the end of that playoff run, where it's like, man, he is laboring out there. Like he would hobble down the floor.
In terms of production, he never seems totally washed, though, right?
No,
Ever.
never does.
Yeah.
Never does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if anything, the place where over the last couple of seasons I've seen some serious slippage has been defensively, but that hasn't been the case this year. This year, like again, in 20 minutes, he will lock up and he will play great defense, and he elevates their defense to another level, even though they have that infrastructure. So it's kind of been weird to see this season in comparison to the other ones. He also looks lighter than he did a couple of years ago. Like I remember after his first ACL injury with the Clippers, he came back really bulky. Like he looked strong, but he looked heavier because I think he was trying to like just carry more muscle in his legs.
Right.
That didn't work out. He got injured again. Now he's like gone back to being a little lighter. So he's quicker on his feet. He's moving a little bit better. I don't know how that does for like the long-term health of his knees, but he looks a little bit lighter to me than usual.
Yeah. It seems like Kobe took that route, right? Towards the end of his career.
Got lighter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Cavs. Is this just a blip or cause for concern when it comes to their struggles?
I think it's kind of a cop-out, but I think you can say both. They had a really, really great start shooting the ball this season, especially off of pull-ups with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. They haven't been shooting well off of pull-ups over the last couple games. Will say that for 2 of their last 3 losses, they missed Evan Mobley, and so you can see how big he is defensively for them. I think their defense has hit a drop-off, especially when Mobley isn't on the floor, and they have to rotate through more of those wing players that, in my opinion, are a bit one-dimensional. Like Karis LeVert, great offensive player, not a good defender. Isaac Okoro, not a good offensive player, great defender. So you have to plug and play these guys situationally. They don't have that two-way wing outside of Mobley that can really do damage. Max Strus is probably the closest to that.
Ty Jerome?
Ty can't guard, man.
Yeah, he can't guard.
You know what I mean?
But when he's hitting offensively, he's hitting.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah.
But like he's more of a innings eater, like go play 10 minutes.
He's smart player
guy
to make
totally.
shots.
Yeah. They have a lot of smart players. But I think the one question I have for them is like when teams can really lock them up physically, like Houston does, or like the Hawks did earlier this season, or Boston can be physical with them. OKC has been physical with them. Like when there are teams that can impose themselves physically on the wings, what can you do to get your guards going? What can you do to get Garland and Mitchell going, free them up a little bit? Without Mobley, their equation changes a little bit. So that's why there's so much pressure on him heading into this postseason to be the guy he's been all season for them. I think he's the major part of why they've taken a leaps. It's like figuring out how to do that. It's not that big of a concern because they're still a really good team and they're still going to dominate through the rest of the regular season and they'll bounce back and their shooting will be better than it has been over the last week. But it is a question in terms of like maybe this team should go out and try to add like just one more wing. You know, I've brought up Cam Johnson. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, he's a swing factor for a lot of teams.
He is. Yeah. I don't know if they even have the assets to go out and get Cam, to be honest with you. I think they'd probably get outbid. But it's something like that. Go out and get a wing that can maybe help them out. I think Dorian Finney-Smith would have been nice for them if they could have. But something along the lines of that to just add one more guy to that wing rotation that can do a little bit of both. Shoot the ball, defend, be a two-way guy. Kind of makes sense.
They've been waiting for Okoro to be able to be a spot-up, knockdown shooter. I mean, if he could be that, he would be the guy that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he would be.
Yeah.
I think the closest guy they have to that is Max Strus. Dean Wade, too. Dean Wade's, like, big. He's, like, 7.
Yeah.
He's important to what they do, too, and he's been injured over the last couple of games. So maybe that's it. But it's a lot of pressure on those guys to kind of compete, you know?
All right, you know the game. Start one player, bench one player, cut one player.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham.
Cool. Okay. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham. Wow, that's tough. Okay, I'm starting Brunson. Man, actually, I don't even know. Yeah, I'll start Brunson. Are we just doing this season?
I'll tell you one thing. If we're going for the rest of the career, I'm going Cade. Like who we're building around?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do this season. Let's do this
Okay,
season.
so if it's just this season, I'm doing bench Cade, cut Donovan. But it's mostly, I mean, I know that's kind of a hot take there, but I think Cade probably has been slightly better, even though the turnovers have been high. I think he's just taken a leap this year. He's been awesome as a facilitator. Mitchell has kind of been helped out by a really, really great context around him this season. Hasn't had the explosive first-team All-NBA year that Mitchell has had over the last couple of seasons. So, yeah, I would say I'm comfortable with that pick. Career, moving forward, different story. I don't know who I would – I probably, crazy enough, I might cut Brunson moving forward because – I don't know. Actually, you know what? I don't know. That's a tough one. Where do you land on that?
I'm going Cade, Brunson. Man, that's tough.
That's
Brunson,
what I'm saying.
Mitchell.
How are you going to cut Donovan Mitchell? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Knicks fans might be mad at me.
Yeah,
I think
I
I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going
I know.
Cade, Mitchell, Brunson.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the top end of Mitchell is probably higher than the top end of Brunson, right? Even though Mitchell's been down a little bit this year compared to those two.
Yeah. He has. Mitchell absolutely has. That's why I'm comfortable cutting this year for Mitchell. But then when you talk about career, when you talk about moving forward, that
Right.
becomes a lot harder of a conversation.
Right. All right, we're going to end with some Raptors trivia. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. Okay.
Who was the first ever draft pick in Raptors franchise history? Too easy for you, man. Too easy.
Damon Stoudemire.
There you go.
Yeah, yes, sir.
1 for 1.
Yeah.
Which Raptor holds the franchise record for most points scored in a single game?
That is, I believe, oh man, it's either, there's two guys that are on my mind right now because there was one guy who had a crazy single game, and then there's one guy who just dominated for like a whole stretch. It's either DeMar or Terrence Ross. I'm going to go with DeMar. Terrence Ross seems crazy. Let's go DeMar.
Fred VanVleet, 54 points on February
Against the
2nd,
Magic, yes.
2021.
Right. Yeah, he did it. You're right. He was crazy. You should go watch those highlights. Just letting it fly. Wild. Yeah.
What year did the Raptors play their first game at the Air Canada Centre? Now Nova Scotia Arena. 99.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're close. We'll give you that one.
Season. Yeah.
Which Raptors player made the game-winning shot in the franchise's first ever playoff game in the year 2000? I could give you a crazy hint. You want a crazy hint?
Yeah. It was against you guys, wasn't it?
It's the head coach of one of the NBA teams right now. He's a head coach in the NBA right now.
He's a head coach in the NBA right now. He hit a game winner. Wait, he was on the Raptors and he hit a game winner?
He hit the game winner.
Yeah,
franchise first ever playoff game in the year 2000.
Yeah. Oh, man. He's a head coach right now. Damn. I'm trying to think of who it might be. This is a tough. I feel like it's obvious. Like you look
There's
at
30. There's 30 people.
There's 30 teams. Hold on. Let me go and look at my freaking standings here. Okay. All right. Let's see. Is it? No, it can't be. I'm just.
You were actually. Here, I'll give you one more hint. You were actually right. It was against the Knicks.
It was against the Knicks. Okay. All right. So it was a former Knick. Well, like he's not a head coach. The guy I'm thinking of. So it can't be him. It can't be Chauncey, because Chauncey's the only guy I know that's coaching right now.
Well, he was a Raptor. Chauncey was never a Raptor, right?
Chauncey was a Raptor. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doug Christie. Boom.
There we
go.
go.
I got it. That's all I needed. There you go.
He's doing great, by the way.
Yeah. He is, man. Kings are
all right. This one's a fun one to end it off. What was the Raptors' original mascot before deciding on the Raptor?
I have no idea.
A beaver.
Did they actually? Was it supposed to be the beaver? Wow. That's terrible. If it was beavers, man, I don't know if I'd be as bought in.
I think Kawhi just wouldn't even have came to Canada if they were the
I'm
Beavers.
Not playing for the Beavers. Nah, man. Forget that. Yeah.
S, great stuff. You're always welcome back on the show. Let them know where they can find you when it comes to podcasts, social media, everywhere else.
Yeah. Listen to the Athletic NBA Daily. It's myself, Dave Dufour, and Zena Keita. We talk basically everything all around the league. You can follow me on Twitter at JustSBaraheni. Appreciate you as always, Combo.
You're always welcome back on the show and talk soon.
Yes, sir.